Take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha until the heart of enlightenment is reached for the benefit of all sentient beings. Take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha until the heart of enlightenment is reached for the sake of all sentient beings. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha until the heart of enlightenment is reached for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, here we are. Feels like the seasons changed, huh? When the clocks turn back, it's very dark at 6:30 or 7. I find there's something kind of comforting about the dark in the wintertime as well. Less activity, maybe more internal time, more time for oneself. So, um, I wanted to read something today. So this is an excerpt from there's a bhikkhu called Thanissaro bhikkhu, and he does a lot of translations of Theravadan texts. And he has a teacher who his teacher was Ajahn Fuang, I think is the proper pronunciation. And Ajahn Fuang's teacher was Ajahn Lee. And the meditation that I give sometimes where we use the breath and we go through the points, through the chakras, that's Ajahn Lee. So that's part of that tradition, if you will. Anyway, this is very much Thai tradition, Thai forest tradition, but also just straight ahead Buddha Dharma. And in meditation, we say there's two types of meditation: concentration and insight. You've heard me use those terms many, many times, and all of the uh, all of the Buddhist practices um, come from these two ideas of working with concentration and then working with insight, seeing into the nature of ourselves. In the Theravadan tradition, they talk about the Four Noble Truths, and the path um, is working with these Four Noble Truths, seeing the suffering that's inherent, its cause, its cessation, and the path to its cessation. With Thanissaro Bhikkhu and others as well in these modern times, they the Pali word is dukkha, but they use, or people have been using lately, the the word stress as opposed to suffering, uh, because suffering is a little bit heavy-handed, if you will, in terms of translation. So I think people have been searching around for other ways to get the feeling of the word. So stress, I think you can relate to it, and not necessarily. Stress is simply being not okay with what's taking place, right? There's a stress to the situation. There's a feeling of not being okay. There's a feeling of wanting things to be a different way. So the practice of insight is the practice of seeing the causes of this stress, the causes of this suffering, and understanding the path that leads to its cessation. So the practice of concentration and the practice of insight is developing the quality of mind that can see into this cycle of stress, the becoming of stress and the ending of stress, the becoming of suffering and the ending of suffering. And the ending of suffering, of course, is nibbana, a state free of all stresses, a state free of all suffering. But the path to that is seeing how we get tangled up in our stresses, seeing how we get tangled up in our mind. And seeing it intellectually, but seeing it also in a very immediate, direct way. When we have an insight into ourselves, when we have an insight into our conditioning, then that conditioning starts to lose its power over us. That insight shows us how we are creating our own suffering, how we are living in a way that is not often moving us towards freedom, but by the constant grabbing onto, by the constant wanting this and not wanting that, we perpetuate this cycle of becoming, this cycle of suffering. So the meditation is an antidote to this suffering. It allows us to develop wisdom. It allows us to develop insight so we see into the nature of this. So I think you follow that, right? People follow that? It's not any kind of um, new concepts. So, on the meditation cushion, in the actual practice of the meditation, we develop concentration to quiet the mind. And then at some point, we let go of that concentration. We let go of the object and we just watch. And we see where the mind, when the mind is grabbing on, and we see when the mind is not grabbing on. But we really go into the experience of that. We understand that quality of mind that's not clinging. And we understand that quality of mind that's clinging. But it's really hard to get to that understanding, that seeing, that direct seeing, without the meditation practice. Maybe for some people, but not for most of us. So that's what we're doing here. So we are moving towards a state of non-clinging awareness. We are becoming familiar with that state. We are investigating that state. And when we're caught up in stress, we are investigating that. But if we have the foundation of concentration, if we have the foundation of calm, if we have the foundation of non-clinging awareness, or that perspective, then we are able to skillfully work with what comes up. So that's a long segue into this from Thanissaro Bhikkhu talking about the teaching he received from Ajahn Fuang. An ideal state of concentration for giving rise to insight is one that you can analyze in terms of stress and the absence of stress even while you're in it. Once your mind was firmly established in a state of concentration, Ajahn Fuang would recommend lifting it from its object, but not so far that the concentration was destroyed. So that's what we've been doing, right? If you've done retreats with me, we watch the breath, and then at some point you open it up. You open up the experience to the entirety of the body or the entirety of your experience, but you're never that far away from the breath. So for those who have the ability, you develop that single pointedness, that concentration to the best of your ability, and then you lift it off its object. You lift it from its object, but not so far that the concentration is destroyed. From that perspective, you can evaluate what levels of stress were still present in the concentration and let them go. So these are instructions for a meditator. You evaluate what levels of stress, what level of suffering is still there, and you let it go. Oh, I'm still thinking about um, breakfast this morning, or I'm still comparing myself to somebody else in the room, or I'm still whatever it is we're doing in that moment. And we see it. I'm thinking about what I'm going to do when the meditation's over. We see it, and we let it go. In the initial stages, this usually involves evaluating how you were relating to the breath and detecting more subtle levels of energy in the body that would provide a basis for deeper levels of stillness. So the mind starts to clear up, and then the focus on the breath is stronger. And you start to get into that subtle relationship of observing the breath and feeling as it moves through the entirety of the body. Once the breath is perfectly still and the sense of the body starts to dissolve into a formless mist, this process would involve detecting the perception of space, knowing, oneness, etc., that would appear in place of the body and could be peeled away like layers of an onion in the mind. In either case, the basic pattern was the same: detecting the level of perception or mental fabrication that was causing unnecessary stress, and dropping it for a more subtle level of perception or fabrication until there was nothing left to drop. So we're meditating on the breath. We're good practitioners, dedicated. At some point, the mind starts to become quiet. And instead of being single pointed, the awareness is opened up to the entirety of the breath body. And then what do we notice? We can notice what's taking place in the mind trying to pull us away into different thought forms. So we become concentrated enough, clear enough to not follow that. And then our perception starts to become more subtle. That subtle energy body, breath energy body becomes our perception. That's where we are. That's what we're watching. And within that field, our perception becomes more subtle, and we start to get a sense of that openness or spaciousness, or sometimes it's a sense of knowing, being the knower. But what's happening is those concepts are falling away. Conceptual thinking is falling away.
No, I don't have a cutoff.
Somebody has their somebody has their microphone on. So, just to conclude with this, this was why, as long as your awareness was still and alert all around, it didn't matter whether you were in the first jhana or the 14th jhana. There's no 14th jhana. For the way you treated your state of concentration was always the same. By directing your attention to issues of stress and its absence, he was pointing to you terms by which to evaluate your state of mind for yourself without having to ask an outside authority. And as it turns out, the terms you can evaluate for yourself, stress, its cause, its cessation, and the path to its cessation, are the issues that define the Four Noble Truths, the right view that the Buddha says can lead to total liberation. So there's a lot in there to unpack in a way, and in a way it's pretty straightforward. We're starting with the breath, then of course we observe the mind, we see what the mind is doing, how it's perpetuating our stress or perpetuating our suffering. We let it go. Anything that's taking you away from the moment, and we're just coming back to the breath again and again, then we open it up. We open it up to the entirety of the body in the breath. And as we become quieter, we deepen our awareness of the breath and the subtle energy of the breath moving throughout the body. And then from there, we become even quieter. We notice when concept comes up, when idea comes up, and we let it go. We notice when stress or suffering is coming up, we let it go. And we go deeper into this calm, into this breath energetic experience. And as the mind becomes more and more quiet, we begin to notice whatever concept is coming up, whatever idea is coming up. We let go of that and we open up further to the experience of non-clinging awareness. And we stay with that. So this is what we're doing. And I think with most of you, you've been around long enough that none of this information is new. But it's always good to be reminded. It's always good to be reminded.